Pause before you react. It sounds simple, but it's one of the hardest things you'll ever do. Because when someone says something that cuts deep, when they roll their eyes, dismiss your effort, or talk over you, your body doesn't ask for permission. It reacts. Your heart rate jumps, your muscles tighten, and before you even think, your mouth is ready to defend. That's human. But here's the truth. Reacting fast might feel powerful in the moment, but it almost always leaves you powerless afterward. When you pause, you interrupt that automatic loop. You buy yourself a few seconds between what happened and what you're about to do. And in those seconds lies your power. You get to ask yourself, what do I really want out of this? Do I want to win the argument, or do I want to win my peace? That pause turns reaction into response. It takes the fire out of anger and replaces it with clarity. Think about it. No one ever said, "I'm so glad I lost my temper just now." We regret the words we launch when we're heated because they come from emotion, not intention. But if you give yourself a moment to breathe, you'll often find that the problem isn't as big as it felt. Most people don't need a reaction. They need space to calm down. And when you don't feed their chaos, it starves. The pause doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. Anyone can react. It takes no skill to shout or snap, but it takes strength to stand still when your ego is begging you to fight back. The pause is not silence. It's strategy. It's you saying, I'm not giving my emotions away just because someone else lost control of theirs. Here's something powerful to remember. People will try to pull you into their storm, but you don't have to go. Every time you react instantly, you let them set the tone. But when you pause, you take that power back. You decide how the conversation goes, how you feel, and how long that moment lives in your head. So next time you feel anger rising, don't rush to defend yourself. Don't fire back. Just pause. Take a breath. Look at the person and remind yourself they're showing you their state of mind, not your worth. That moment of stillness is where self-control lives. When you learn to pause, you stop being controlled by emotions and start controlling them. You realize that peace doesn't come from perfect people. It comes from practiced patience. And the best part, the more you pause, the more natural it becomes. You start to notice triggers before they take over. You start to choose calm over conflict. The pause won't change what people say or do, but it will change what those things do to you. And that's the difference between reacting to the world and mastering yourself, because real strength isn't in the loudest voice, it's in the quiet moment before you speak. Interpret, don't assume. Most of the time, we get angry not because of what actually happened, but because of what we think happened. Someone doesn't text back. Someone walks past without saying hello. Someone gives a short answer, and immediately the mind starts writing a story. They're ignoring me. They don't respect me. They must be upset. But here's the catch. That story isn't fact. It's fiction written by emotion. And when you live by assumptions, you let emotion do the thinking. Assumptions are shortcuts our brain takes to protect us. They help us make sense of uncertainty. But often, those shortcuts lead us straight into misunderstanding. The truth might be simple. Maybe they were busy, distracted, or just tired. But because we filled in the blanks ourselves, it feels personal. It feels like a direct hit. And that's how unnecessary anger is born, not from truth, but from interpretation gone wrong. When you learn to interpret instead of assume, you start replacing judgment with curiosity. You ask questions instead of drawing conclusions. You say, "Hey, is everything okay?" instead of, "Why are you ignoring me?" That small shift changes everything. It turns confrontation into communication. It gives people room to be human, and it gives you room to stay calm. The world becomes a lot less frustrating when you stop assuming the worst. Because here's the reality. Most of what people do has nothing to do with you. They're fighting their own battles, carrying their own stress, and reacting from their own pain. That sharp tone, that cold look, that impatient reply, 9 times out of 10, it's not about you. But when you assume it is, you make their storm yours. Interpreting means stepping back and asking, what else could this mean? Maybe that coworker wasn't rude. Maybe they're overwhelmed. Maybe that friend didn't forget you. Maybe they're going through something they haven't said out loud. Interpretation gives you empathy. It doesn't excuse bad behavior, but it keeps you from building resentment on false evidence. The truth is, assumption is fast but fragile. Interpretation is slower, but it's solid. It gives you a fuller picture before you react, and in that process, anger loses its grip. You start to see that not everything requires a defense. Not every comment deserves a comeback. Sometimes it just needs understanding. The more you practice interpretation, the lighter life feels. You stop taking things so personally. You stop replaying moments in your head. You start realizing that peace isn't about everything going your way. It's about not letting every little thing pull you away from yourself. So the next time something feels off, resist the urge to fill in the blanks. Don't assume. Interpret. Ask. Clarify. Because one honest question can save you from 100 silent misunderstandings. You'll find that most people aren't trying to hurt you. They're just trying to survive, just like you. And when you see that, anger doesn't have much room left to live. Protect your peace like it's expensive. Because it is. Your peace is the most valuable thing you own, and yet it's the easiest thing to give away. You hand it out when you argue with people who don't want to understand you. You give it up when you let someone's mood decide yours. You lose it when you keep trying to prove your worth to people who already made up their minds. Protecting your peace doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop overextending yourself for the wrong things. Peace doesn't just happen, it's built through boundaries. Boundaries aren't walls to keep people out. They're filters to keep chaos from getting in. They're the quiet lines you draw that say, I can love you, but I won't lose myself for you. The more you honor those lines, the more you realize that peace isn't about having a quiet life. It's about having a controlled one. A life where you decide what deserves your attention and what doesn't. People will always have opinions. Some will misunderstand you, some will judge you, and some will project their insecurities onto you. That's life. But you get to choose whether you absorb it or let it pass through. Protecting your peace means learning that not every comment needs a response, and not every situation deserves your energy. Silence can be more powerful than explanation. Walking away can be stronger than winning. When you protect your peace, you start to feel the difference between reacting and responding, between being kind and being a doormat, between helping someone and carrying what isn't yours. You begin to understand that saying no doesn't make you rude. It makes you responsible. You can't pour into others from an empty cup, and you can't stay calm if you're constantly surrounded by noise. Sometimes peace means saying less, doing less, and being less available to chaos. The truth is, peace is not passive. It's intentional. It's choosing what conversations you step into. It's deciding which battles are worth fighting and which ones aren't. It's letting go of the urge to control everything and trusting that some things can resolve without your involvement. Protecting your peace might look like leaving a text unanswered, choosing to walk away from gossip, or taking time to be alone. It's not selfish. It's self-preservation. You'll notice that the more you protect your peace, the more people around you change too. The ones who thrive on drama will fall away. The ones who respect your boundaries will stay. Peace attracts peace. And suddenly, you realize that you no longer have to fight for calm. It becomes your natural state. So guard your peace like it costs a fortune, because it does. Don't let anyone buy it with guilt, take it with manipulation, or steal it with anger. It's yours. And once you learn how to protect it, no one, not their words, not their attitude, not their noise, can take it from you. Choose understanding over winning. It sounds simple, but it's one of the hardest lessons to live. Most people don't argue because they want clarity. They argue because they want victory. They want to be heard, to be right, to prove a point. But here's the quiet truth. Even if you win the argument, you can still lose the connection. You can win the moment and lose your peace. When you make understanding the goal instead of winning, everything about how you communicate changes. Choosing understanding means you start listening to hear, not listening to reply. You stop waiting for your turn to speak and start paying attention to what's really being said and what's not being said. Because most of the time, anger isn't about the words, it's about the feeling underneath them. When someone raises their voice, they're usually trying to say, I feel unheard, or I feel unseen. If you can look past the tone and see the hurt, you can respond to the real issue instead of the noise. The urge to win comes from ego, but the ability to understand comes from strength. Anyone can shout louder. Anyone can point fingers. But it takes control to stay calm when you know you could win with words and still choose not to. That's not weakness. That's mastery. That's saying, my peace is more valuable than my pride. You realize that every argument doesn't need a victor. Sometimes it just needs someone to stay steady. When you choose understanding, you create space for empathy. You start to see that people's reactions are often reflections of what they're going through, not who you are. That coworker who snapped at you might be carrying stress from home. That friend who went silent might be fighting battles you can't see. Understanding doesn't mean you accept disrespect. It means you look deeper before you respond. It means you care more about peace than proving a point. Winning can feed your ego, but understanding feeds your growth. It makes you patient. It helps you hold your ground without losing your grace. It teaches you that not every conflict needs a comeback. Sometimes it just needs compassion. Because at the end of the day, nobody remembers who was right. They remember who made them feel safe enough to be wrong. When you choose understanding, you'll find that arguments end quicker, relationships heal faster, and your mind feels lighter. You stop walking away from conversations with regret, replaying what you could have said differently. You stop defending yourself from things that don't deserve your energy. You start realizing that calm is a much louder language than anger. So choose understanding, not because it's easy, but because it's freeing. The goal isn't to be right, it's to be wise. The goal isn't to silence the other person, it's to stay centered in yourself. You don't have to win every battle to prove your strength. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is simply understand and move on. Because when you choose peace over pride, you never really lose. You can't control people, only your response. That's one of the hardest truths to accept. But once you do, life gets a lot lighter. Because most of our frustration doesn't come from what people do. It comes from wishing they would do it differently. We expect them to think like us, talk like us, treat us like we treat them. But the world doesn't work that way. People will interrupt you, misunderstand you, and sometimes even mistreat you. You can't stop that. But you can stop giving them the power to decide how you feel. Control is an illusion that keeps us anxious. The more we try to manage other people's behavior, the more we lose control of our own emotions. You can't control if someone gossips about you, but you can control whether you join the conversation. You can't control if someone disrespects you, but you can control whether you respond with dignity or defensiveness. That's where real power lies, not in trying to fix people, but in choosing not to be shaken by them. When you start focusing on your response instead of their behavior, something shifts. You stop taking things so personally. You stop expecting apologies from people who aren't capable of giving them. You start realizing that peace isn't found in perfect people. It's found in your ability to stay grounded when things get messy. Every reaction you give is a choice. And if you can pause before you speak, you'll realize that no one can make you angry without your permission. People will test your patience, your boundaries, and sometimes your character. That's inevitable. But every test is a chance to practice self-control. You can either let their behavior dictate your mood, or you can let your peace dictate your behavior. The difference between those two paths is the difference between chaos and calm. When you remember that you control the response, you take the driver's seat back from emotion. There's freedom in letting go of control. Because once you stop trying to manage how others act, you start mastering how you react. You start saying less, stressing less, and walking away more. You stop fighting battles that don't need to be fought. You start realizing that your silence can speak louder than your anger ever could. You learn that walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. The truth is, peace doesn't mean everyone around you changes. It means you change the way you see them. It means understanding that some people will never apologize, never understand, never grow the way you hoped. And that's okay. Your job isn't to make them better. It's to make sure they don't make you bitter. So when someone pushes your buttons, remember you hold the remote. You decide if they get a reaction or not. You decide if the moment takes your peace or teaches your patience. The only thing you truly control is yourself. And once you learn that, no one can control you again.